to go ahead and announce it in October of 2017. Then, as part of this complex, elaborate, and well thought through initiative, they agreed to a series of interviews with the New York Times, providing the Times with a basis for some very interesting stories, which after the Times vetted those interviews and vetted the information, they went and proceeded and wrote those stories on October the 16th, which included the release for the very first time of gun camera footage of UAP intercepts by our military planes, which have all been kept absolutely, completely out of the public domain, except for one, I think, misrelease. It was kind of a screw-up, and a little bit got out. This is unprecedented. No nation has ever done this, and here the USO did it, and that was the article that appeared in the New York Times, including the pilot, and then they announced that there had been a study and all of that. And people can find all of this on my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, where I have information about all of that in several locations, and they could also learn about it by going to the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. Just Google To the Stars Academy. So what you have there is not a formal confirmation by the government, and it's certainly not a confirmation of UFOs. We already know that. What you have is a proactive effort by a segment of the military intelligence community, which somehow got authorization or got the room to maneuver this project into the public domain. We do not know how that happened. Who authorized it, how it was cleared, we don't know. And as a result, the military intelligence complex is now leading the disclosure advocacy movement, which is such a milestone event that most people can't even grasp how significant it is. I can, and it's one of the reasons why I think the truth embargo's days are very numbered. And that's what happened on December the 16th. We have been waiting for the next article. We know that there will be one, but they have continued to slow down the pace of their initiative because of the ever-increasing political storm that's underway. I mean, when they launched the project, Hillary was a lock to be president. I say when they began formulating the project. When they launched it in October, we were up to about a Category 3 political hurricane, and now we're up to about a Category 5 political hurricane, and so they had to slow things down. But there will be more articles, there will be more gun camera footage, and Lord knows what else may come out unless the military intelligence complex somehow reaches out and pulls them back in, meaning puts the kibosh on it, which they theoretically could do. However, if they do that, it's going to be extremely obvious, and the public response is going to be rather intense. So the toothpaste out of the tube, and I expect to be brushing my teeth with it pretty soon. And you may as well. So that is a short summary of a very complex situation underway, which people can familiarize themselves to. There's plenty on the web about it right now, including 88 television interviews and stories, which I have logged on my website right now.
Oh, that was a fascinating, prescient answer. Thank you for the details there, because I think that brings a lot of folks up to speed on the history that you know and the background of what's going on here. You know, my other last question would be, you talked about the public response, the potential blowback that could be coming down the road. I'm sure the military-industrial complex and deep state are a little worried about what's going to happen when people actually find out some of these disclosure items that could have changed the world for the last 70 years. What do you think about how we're going to manage the blowback that might be coming down the road?
Well, it's how are they going to manage it? They have severe public relations problems. There's no question. Government is hard. It's not a walk in the park. And obviously, if you're in the military, war is hell. So they know what hell is like. Is this going to be hell? No. Is it going to be hard? Yes. But it is what it is. Now, a lot of the people that were involved in the truth embargo, certainly in the early days, they're dead. A lot of the people involved in it now don't have the degree of culpability But from the standpoint of the government in general, yeah, people are going to have more reasons to, well, they're just going to learn more about the dysfunction of the American government, the dysfunction of the military intelligence complex, more lies, but it will be part of a cathartic process in which the truth will start coming out. And the truth is the balm that will heal all wounds. So initially, the classic phrase is it's absolutely true. The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. And so, yeah, first American people get pissed off. And then as they begin to regain trust in government and the government starts to respond appropriately and reform gets underway, then people will feel like they're being set free again. And the country is being set free to be what it's supposed to be. That's very Pollyannish, not quite utopian, but yeah, sometimes I get that way. But it could go badly. Trust me. The truth, the post-disclosure world could go terribly against our desires and hopes and dreams. And that's where the people come in. And I talk about this all the time, and I wish I could get bigger audiences, but the mainstream, they just don't want me talking to anybody in the mainstream, is that, and I don't think this is an accident. I think the extraterrestrials knew exactly where we were going to be technologically when they initiated the modern escalation in 1947. Is that it's not an accident that the truth embargo will probably end at a time when the human race has the most powerful technological connectivity, research, and engagement tools ever seen. 3+ billion computers, maybe 4 or 5 now. Several billion people already on the internet, able to communicate worldwide, including translation softwares that get better and better and better. So you can go to some website in Mongolia and translate it quickly into English and generally understand it. And so the world's people have the tools to really challenge the government and its actions, come together naturally because they're all focused in one direction at that point, basically about the ET issue, and help to ensure that really stupid things don't happen post-disclosure, that the psychopathological types get shamed out of power or maneuvered out of the way, and people with common sense and intelligence and vision take their place. And we don't do anything really stupid. Now, if the public, if the vast majority of the people, virtually the vast majority, say, well, okay, that's interesting, and go right back to being asleep, then things will go badly, and the greatest opportunity the human race has ever had to get their act together will pass. And ultimately, I think we will see what I would call catastrophic outcomes for the planet. Not the annihilation of the human race, but a world where the living essentially envy the dead.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's one question for both of you guys, Michael and Steve. It could really backfire. We had our president, jokingly back a few months ago said, hey, maybe we should create a space force. And then he directs the Pentagon to do it. But if it comes out that we've had a space force for many years, and it could backfire on what he's done. I mean, it could make people look at, wow, I mistrust this person and the government all the more, because here he's saying he's now going to create a space force. Then they find out we've had one for 20 or 30 years or whatever. I would certainly have more mistrust.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. The president has said he's going to do a lot of things. Most of it is simply hot air. I don't know that he's instructed or actually there's any plan to do this. I doubt it. The military is not, how would you say, spring-loaded to respond to the ramblings of this man. But there already is a space force. There already is a space command. There already is a classified military space program. And I doubt the president knows it. So, but the president has way more challenging things to do. And these kinds of statements, which he's done often, are primarily distractions. He's just trying to change the subject, and he reaches for whatever shiny object happens to be available, and that was Space Force was the object that day. Space Force, Space Farce. You just cannot assign the same amount of gravitas to statements from this president as you have gotten from past presidents. Not that past presidents were all exactly global statesmen necessarily, but so I just I tell people, don't invest too much in what's going on right now. There's a hurricane above you. Stay indoors, pay attention, and wait for it to pass, though admittedly some people have got to fly into that hurricane, like the hurricane hunters, and keep track of it and deal with it, and maybe even try to use various weather modification efforts to mitigate it, to weaken it. And those people are bold and daring, and they have my total respect. But again, we're dealing right now with a hurricane, and it's hard to make sense out of that. And so I try to think past it, at least for now, and see how the constitutional republic of the United States deals with this crisis. We've had crises before. We've handled some of them better than others. This is another. All empires and nations and kingdoms and civilizations of the past have all had crises, and we know that in some cases they don't handle them well, and they're gone. They basically become irrelevant, or they become extinct in a sense. I'm more optimistic about how we're going to end up, but it's a crisis nevertheless.
Now, I got on our chat line here, Ronnie Dawson wants to know, is Area 51 really above the level of our president?
Don't think of it, Area 51, above the level of the president. It's more like below. In other words, the black world, the dark world, the hyper-classified world, has over the years been growing, and in that world, the presidents and the Congress and congressional oversight committees have been removed. They don't have access. They don't even know what they don't have access to. This is a constitutional breach. It's a major problem. It wasn't a sinister, evil plot. It emerged organically from the existential threat that the Cold War was, but it needs to be repaired. It needs to be reformed. And one of the problems with something like this, when you have this huge, deeply classified, hidden projects and so forth, of which the ET issue is numero uno, is that how do you repair something that you can't see, find, or deal with? How do you oversee something that you don't even know exists? So it is in that sense a self-perpetuating dysfunction, like some diseases. They essentially are self-perpetuating. That's what cancer is, and those are the kind that kill you. And this is the kind of thing that could kill off the republic. It's not the only thing, but it is certainly one of them. And so it has to be reformed. And the activist movement, the disclosure advocacy movement, that is one of the other things that drives what I do, because it is something that has the potential to reform this huge problem. That's where my interests lie. ETs are cool, great. If they show up, great. I'd love to know more. But that is not what drives me. What drives me is helping to bring about the adjustments and reforms that are absolutely necessary if this republic is going to continue.
Well, I don't think we can keep going on, as it has been in the past and survive. I mean, you can only give so much propaganda to the public, and one day the people are going to realize, hey, I've just been fed a whole bunch, pardon the expression, I can say this because we're on the internet, that we're full of shit, or the government's full of shit. People are going to, at one point, if they don't start, letting us know a little bit, it's going to bite them, where no one's going to trust anything you hear from the government anymore.
That's already happening. Trust levels are virtually record lows. media, Congress, politicians in general.